everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Author Collaborative. As always, I'll be talking to an author whose book I have read and enjoyed, and the guest for this week is Harish Kamath. And hey, Sachin. Hi, Megha. Harish is already here, so I'm going to add him to the live. Okay, I'm sending you an invitation again, Harish. See if you can accept it. Instagram is telling me that you are unable to accept my request. Hey, hi Harish. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm also good. And welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. Great to be here.
I'm really excited to talk to you because I have read your book, A Philadelphia Story, and really enjoyed it. Before we tell more about the experience, I'm just going to read out a few passages from the story and then I will tell you more about why and how much I enjoyed it.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay, so before we do that, here's just a look at the cover for the audience. This is the book that I'm reading out, A Philadelphia Story. It's a novel by Harish Kamath, who's my guest today. So this is the first chapter and it begins like this. Is it happening? I mean, is this for real? He asked the young intern. He was sure this was a false alarm, a wasted half-hour drive to the venerable maternity hospital down the interstate that was sure to echo itself a maddening number of times before this was all over. Because he had, in a sense, become quite accustomed to this in the last few months. Not the trip to the hospital, this being the first time anything of that magnitude had happened, but everything else to do with the pregnancy. The hours spent shopping at the mall, picking up stuff that was less than essential, while the main items remained forgotten until halfway through the drive back home. The late night cravings for chicken Manchurian when the nearest Indian restaurant that would serve this fancy misnomer for a desi innovation was far away. The urgent calls at work when he had just gotten and jumped over hoops to log into his machine. What with all these new security protocols in place, just to report a symptom that was probably mundane. You think this is it? His wife would ask, and he would then assume the doctor's lab coat for the rest of the conversation, telling her not to worry, to relax, to get some sleep if possible, that this sort of thing happened, that the Indian neighbors were just a few doors down if push came to shove, and that he would be home in the evening anyway. Everything would be just fine, except, of course, it wouldn't. He would spend the rest of the morning looking up the symptoms on the net, his work assignments on hold during the process. He would try to make up the backlog right after lunch, his worst time of the day for work. So, right away, we know that the protagonist is expecting a child and the wife is pregnant, and we are probably going to go to the hospital. We are not yet sure if the labor has started or if it's a false alarm.
Exactly.
So, talking about my experience of reading the book, I quite enjoyed it because I'm an expat myself. I live in the Netherlands, so I could relate to the protagonist feeling a little lost from their homeland and culture and trying to adjust to the people, the culture, the understanding that the people have in a land that is different from where you're raised in. So, kudos on that. That's completely on point. And also, I like the character growth, especially of the male protagonist. We see that his views change over the period of the story because at the beginning of the story, he's quite a misogynist, and it comes across like, okay, that's not how it works. But then we change because he changes his thinking over the course of the story. So yeah, that was my experience, and based on my reading, I have a few questions for you. Are you ready for that?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so just a second. My first question to you, excuse me. I think I'll need a. Okay. So my first question to you was this only that writing a character like this, who could be, because the readers have become a bit more sensitive these days, and you never know whose feelings you are hurting by writing such a character. So when you are writing a character like that, I'm not just saying the female is also a little problematic with her thought process. And when you are writing such characters, there can be like very thin line. People would get offended and reject your material right away. Like, oh my God, no, I don't like this person. I don't like this story. So how do you draw that line?
See, I am someone who always tries to keep things as real as possible. And when people are being real, they are not necessarily being, politically correct, right? So, as a writer, I find this whole political correctness thing very suffocating, very stifling, because I like to like go dig deeper, try to find out what are the root causes, study people's emotions. If during the time when you were reading my book, you would have come across a lot of that. There's internal monologue, there's analysis of everything. So that is what I like to do. And if you're writing a story, you want to create friction between the characters. If you have people who are perfect, who are perfectly polite to each other,
Yeah.
perfectly respectful of each other, it's going to be very difficult. You want to portray conflict, you want to portray friction, intrigue, and then in the end, the resolution comes. So you want to get the reader emotionally involved in your story. So it's very difficult to do if you're always going to be politically correct. So when I'm writing, I ignore all those boundaries, that our modern sensibilities set for us. I write as if they don't exist. And and yeah, uh, one of the things I wanted to talk about, actually, this is something that I've been meaning to get off my chest for quite some time. Uh, there are a lot of people online, places like Amazon and Goodreads, etc. Uh, the Gen Z, the millennials, the liberals that you're talking about. Some of these people really need to develop their reading skills, because seriously, because they have like bragged about how quickly they finished the book. I finished it in 4 sessions, 3 sessions, 2 sessions, 1 session, and all. But when you read their reviews, you realize they haven't understood the story at all. Uh, they haven't understood the basic thing about the book, that it's not linear. It's like parallel. There are two storylines moving in parallel. One which is in the past, and one which is not in the present, but in the more recent past, you can say.
Yeah.
So there are two things that are moving in parallel, and then these people are talking about how the resilience of their relationship and how their love overcomes all odds. And that's when I realize these people haven't understood the story at all. They've just assumed that the whole thing is one linear continuous thing from start to finish. And so Gen Z really stop watching Netflix, stop whatever you guys like to do, and start developing your reading skills. Read analytically. When you see something that you don't understand, question. Ask questions, try to find out the answer, because that's what I do as a reader. But I guess I'm from an older generation, which we used to love reading. Reading was like a huge thing for us. But I guess nowadays people just want everything to be served to them on a platter. कहते हैं ना, परोस के देना पड़ता है सब कुछ. They don't have any time for
Yeah, yeah. They
analysis.
want to be spoon fed with the interpretation of the what we are trying to say. Also, I get that.
Exactly. So they haven't understood the story. In fact, there was just one reviewer that I saw who understood what the whole thing was about. At least he came closest to understanding what the whole thing was about. That there's a guy named Yatin Ahuja, and I just want to name him so that he let him take a bow. So regarding the central character and his so-called racism and his misogyny. So I, I tried very hard to make him multifaceted, give him many shades, many different layers, make him a complicated individual.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's why it's a little frustrating to read some of these comments, because you have to go deeper to understand motivations. And once you sort of slot a person, like add an ist word, then further discussion becomes impossible. You could like quarantine the individual, and no analysis is possible. So anyway, so he is actually very progressive. If you have read the story, there are many aspects on which he's very progressive. So for example, he is appalled by the abortion of female fetuses by Indian expat community in the US, which is a big scandal, by the way. I read somewhere that the ratio is something like 800 to 1,000. 800 to 1,000 in the Indian expat community in the US. I mean, hello.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Yeah, yeah. So these are supposed to be some of the most educated people who fly out from India to those shows, the creme de la creme of our youth. And I guess there is no ban on gender screening. So
In the US, yeah.
Yeah, the US. So once they find out it's a female fetus, nothing stopping them from aborting. So, anyways, getting back to the story. So he's kind of like appalled by that. There are many other things, like he's supportive of Rose's career. He wants to meet his bride to be one-on-one, and even at the end when he sees her in a burqa, he's kind of like appalled. He wants her to get rid of it and all those things. So in many respects, he is quite progressive, but at the same time, he has some issues with the opposite sex. And one of the reasons for that is that there is like this deep-seated
Conditioning.
because of what happened to him when he was a kid.
Also conditioning.
Yeah, so he's got that in him. And the other thing is, like, he talks about so he concedes that women can be loyal to their spouses, right? So he talks about how women stay loyal to their spouses through some of the worst of times, extreme poverty, jail sentences, even beatings. So he talks about all, but they won't be loyal to him for some reason. After a while, after 2-3 months, everybody leaves him, and he doesn't know why. So he thinks there's something missing inside him. There's this mysterious inner quality that is kind of missing inside, which other men have, but he doesn't have. So he doesn't know what to do about it, and he has to find solutions for his problems, given this knowledge about himself. So he reasons his way to the conclusion that marrying a traditional Indian wife is the solution to his problems. So she'll be loyal, she'll be faithful, she won't leave him. And in this process, he rejects Rose. So that's another part of the story. He has multiple problems with Rose. So that's where the racist allegation comes in. But I would like to discuss that also a little bit further. So the first problem with Rose is that he cannot believe that she could like him. Why would a tall, good-looking black woman find a short, brown-skinned Indian man like him attractive? That is the question that's in his mind, and he's suspicious. He's not buying that that she could be loyal to him, and that suspicion never leaves him. Despite the fact that Rose demonstrates that she's loyal, she's honest, she's faithful. He somehow can never get himself to believe that about her. So he is a racist, but not in the way that everybody seems to think. He's actually, if you see, he's racist towards himself, his own brown skin. That he's
Yes.
hot, he's brown skinned. Why would a black woman like him? So everybody's got that racist thing exactly backwards. He's actually racist towards himself. Uh, his biggest disappointment comes when Rose reveals that she is part Indian at the party, because that's the time he really loses his marbles, because till then he was very cocky. He was like flaunting her, as if she's a trophy. That, look at me, what I've achieved. I have a black girlfriend and all. But then when she reveals that she is part Indian, in his mind, like, she's insulted him in front of everyone, because she has nullified his achievement.
Right.
In a way, till then he was like flaunting her, and then now suddenly his whole his world has collapsed on himself. So and when she leaves him also, he never tries to make it up to her. Like, he never tries to talk to her, discuss his problems with her, assuage her. He doesn't do any of that, because in his mind all this is normal. What she did to him, he was expecting her to do it all along, that anytime she's going to dump me. And so when she does it, he doesn't think it's something out of the ordinary. So he doesn't try to mend fences with her. For he's at the gym for 2 weeks, but he doesn't try to make it up to her. He's actually more comfortable with her as the racial stereotype of black people, that they are oversized and that they sleep around. He's comfortable with that idea in his mind. He's not comfortable with the idea of her as a loyal, honest partner. So there's complexity there, and of course he has that other problem also, that he doesn't believe in having children of mixed racial descent. That is another problem in his mind. That is not racist. It's like more whimsical than anything else, because it's not just like black people. It's, any race, any two races. He's against two races mixing in that way. So he's a complex personality, and there's a lot to unpack when you read the book. But unfortunately, a lot of people just sort of flip through the pages and don't bother analyzing any further. So then they come to the conclusion that he's racist and he's misogynist and all those things. When in fact he has, like, there are valid reasons for him to feel the way he does about these issues. So I guess when I write, I write with the assumption that the reader is kind of like well versed with the language, who's intelligent and smart. But I guess those are wrong assumptions to make.
Assumptions, yeah. Risky assumptions, I would say.
So yeah, it's annoying. I mean, if you don't understand, at least admit that you don't understand. Don't go online and start writing bad things about the book.
Yeah.
People will get the wrong impression.
Yeah. So Nilshi was saying that she loved your point of view as in writing it as a monologue.
Okay.
And Nilshi also said that shopping for unnecessary items and all that she could relate to during the pregnancy.
I
Oh,
was going crazy during those times. If I've been able to capture even a fraction of my anxiety during those times, I think I've done well in the book.
so can I sing? Hi, Sukana. So my next question to you was again related to the writing, particularly in this book. You mentioned the linearity of the time passage. So I wanted to understand, because you already mentioned that it was confusing for some people, right? And you have tried to maintain it. For me, I am an avid reader, so for me it was not confusing at all. I could get what you are trying to do. You are connecting the past and the present with the events that are happening around. So no problems for me. But when you get readers who are not able to understand, and when you are writing such a story, putting out such a story, how do you think one should go about it?
I honestly didn't anticipate so much confusion. Uh, I mean, I had that thought in my mind when I completed the book, but what happened was I had a couple of my good friends take a look at the book. I
Okay.
think one of them is here. Viraj is here, I think. So I had them take a look at the book, and when they finished reading the book, I asked them, "Did you find this? Were you able to understand this aspect of the book? You know that there are parallel storylines moving back and forth, and they didn't have a problem reading it and understanding. So I kind of assumed that nobody else would. You know, I guess that was a wrong assumption. Uh, I don't know how to should I like put an explanatory note right at the beginning of the book that this is what happens. I don't like to tell the reader, what
Yeah.
to think. I've already done all my writing in the book. It's there, and ultimately, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? You sort
Yeah.
of you read and you take what you can from the book, and you either like it or you don't like it. So. I don't know how to help the situation now that the book is already published. Now,
Yeah.
if I had, a few of these people test reading the book before it was published, and they're there to tell me these things, I would have tried to make some, changes maybe. But now that it's already out, I don't know what to do. Uh, I thought I had made it pretty clear. The first chapter is like about the pregnancy. The second in the second chapter, it sort of goes back, right? It's like before he's married, when he's looking for a bride. So can't people connect the dots? Why is it so difficult to understand that it's gone back to the past? Then in the third chapter, it goes back to the hospital where the baby's born and the doctor's trying to save it. And so I thought it was pretty obvious, but I guess for some people,
Yeah. So I have also written two novels that span over the years, like 10, 15 years of time. And for me, I don't know if it will work for you, or I can't really vouch that it worked in my book or not, because I think it worked because nobody said that they were confused. So for me, what I did was I mentioned the year at the beginning of the chapter. So probably that works. Who knows?
yeah, that's a good point. Maybe the next time, I should have the dates, clearly mentioned that this
Yeah.
was a date happened and this was a date when this happened, and yeah, I guess I
Yeah. And
for
but then now some people also said that you should not do that because you are kind of putting the reader down, trying to say that the reader is not smart enough to gauge what you are doing.
exactly, I don't want to insult the reader's intelligence. I'm not writing for school kids. I'm writing for mature
Yeah,
adults.
yeah. We are writing for adult readers, right?
Who are able to work these things out for themselves. But when you're talking about adults, maybe Gen Z should not be part of that. Yeah, not,
Okay, again, not insulting any generation here. Don't cancel us.
I'm sorry. I mean, I don't mean to be so scornful, but after reading all these reviews and you know, like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they are very sensitive. We should be very careful about what we say about Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
That's another good point. Very emotionally fragile.
Yes. So, yeah, that brings me to the end of my questions that I had for you related to reading your book. You have also read my latest book, Heartstrings and Harmonies. Would you like to share your
So
experience?
should I go ahead and read that story which I told you that I liked?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that. Just give me a second.
Yes.
Juggling things around here. The world's slogan, stay vigilant. ये वक्त के कभी गुलाम नहीं, इन्हें किसी बात का ध्यान नहीं. Uh, he's not a slave of time. He has no clue about anything. Mom, really? I like the way this has the same start as my book. You know, the question, is it happening for real? So, okay. Uh, Mom, really? Yes, come on, get up. Now. I'll keep playing the song till you're out of bed. Takes me back. I groaned and kicked the quilt off, stomping my feet on the ground as I got up. Oh, very subtle. But I'm also your mother, remember? She walked up to me and landed a whack on the back of my head. Now, this is again politically incorrect, by the way. You cannot write all the stuff. Child abuse. Okay. If there was any drowsiness, the remnants of it were now gone. I rubbed the spot where she'd marked me with her love and dragged my feet to the bathroom. Karara jawab milega, I shouted, blew a raspberry, and shut the door on her face. You know, before my mother could react or worse, land me another whack. Okay. Okay. Oh, the sheer obstinance. I can't believe I birthed two polar opposite offspring. I'm pretty sure the nurse made a mistake and I was handed the wrong baby. This is obviously the mother. In case the scene seems familiar, you have my deepest sympathies. We are in the same boat, bro. Congratulations. And in the off chance that you haven't figured it out yet, I'm the younger. We've probably adopted you, child, in an Indian household. My family thinks that because my elder brother is a compulsive overachiever, I'm compelled to follow in his footsteps, or rather, his walk of fame. Flash news, it's a big no, because A, I don't want to, and B, I have zero motivation to walk even on the sidewalk next to said walk of fame. So all this, came across as very genuine and, very obviously things that have happened to you in your personal life, which you have.
Yeah, so I've exaggerated it a little, but yes, I was also the younger, underachieving sibling.
So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you later on. Uh, so do we have time? Can I
Yes,
read the whole thing?
yes, go on. Maybe I'll just few more lines. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe two more
Yeah.
paragraphs. 2, 3 more paragraphs. As the morning went by, I took my own sweet time getting fresh. I then took a leisurely shower before walking out to join the rest of the family for breakfast. I rolled my eyes at the sight of Mayank, my elder brother. As expected, he had his head hanging over an open course book in front of him. Real nerd, this guy. Huh? Curbing my urge to hit him on the head, I casually took a seat next to him. I whistled and grabbed a banana from the fruit basket and hummed the song which was stuck in my head, courtesy my mother. So you're trying to annoy your older brother when he's trying to study from a book. क्यों दुनिया का नारा जमे रहो, क्यों मंजिल का इशारा जमे रहो. Why is the world slogan stay vigilant? Why does our goal beckon stay vigilant? Three sets of scowling faces turned towards me in unison.
Okay. I think that's it. Uh, Thank you so much, Nilshri. She's saying so well written. Thank you. Thank you.
it Whenever you write from your personal experience, na, there is a magic to it that it's not there when you're just trying to make something up from scratch. You can easily see, at least as a writer can see, when a writer has written something from their own experiences, I immediately, okay, this is from this person's personal life. Okay, so going on to my questions. My first question: how important is personal experience for you as a writer?
Okay, so most of the writing that I do, whether it's poetry, whether it's non-fiction or whether it's fiction, most of it, I'm not claiming all of it, but most of it is inspired by either by my personal experience or by something that somebody said to me in passing or when they shared their experience with me. I draw a lot of inspiration from the things that happen around me and with me. So keep your eyes open, I would say, for getting the inspiration. And if you are, I don't want to quote the same thing from the story that you have just read, but if you are vigilant enough, you will always have that particular source of inspiration hit you at any time. And it's just about keeping your eyes and ears open. And as you also mentioned, I also totally believe that when you have written from your experience, it shines in a different way. It connects with people better, I feel.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I wonder how these people write stories about space and galaxies and fairy tale monsters and all those things, because if I had to write something like that, I would be lost. I wouldn't know what to write. But a lot of people do. For me, it's like whatever I write is something that is either from my personal experience or something very close. And it involves only just like one or two steps further. Along. You take a personal experience and sort of try to imagine. It went in one way, but what if it had gone the other way? What could have happened? That's how I write my fiction. So great, great to know that you are also in that same category, because I thought
Yes. While I do enjoy science fiction and fantasy, I don't think I have it in me to write something that is so unreal.
right. I wouldn't be able to. I would give up
Yeah.
after writing.
Same.
So I guess we aren't really as good as we think as writers. we way to go. Uh, so the next thing, how do you deal with criticism of your work?
So initially it used to affect me a lot because I was not only naive but also new to, having my work being read by somebody who doesn't know me personally. So getting that feedback that your work isn't something that I liked. What you've written, I could not bring myself to like it. Hearing that for the first time was a bit of a shock because till that time, whatever I was writing was being read by friends and family and the people in my network who somehow, if I haven't hadn't even spoken to them, they knew that this person exists or something
Right,
like that. They are in your known circle, and they tend to be a little biased. Let's be honest. They do tend to be biased about your writing, and they will only tell you the good things about what you have written.
right,
Mostly,
right,
generally, and also because they don't want to offend us and they care about us, they will not be completely honest about it. So when you put out your work to somebody who doesn't know you somebody who have you have never met, you have to first understand that they don't know you, so they are not going to be completely honest about your work, which you have to take with a pinch of salt and try to understand the place where they are coming from. And over the years, I've learned to divide the kind of feedback that I get into two categories. Is it critical? I mean, is it helpful or is it hurtful? If it is helpful, I try to incorporate it and try to learn from it. Maybe try and make my writing better based on that, whatever critical feedback that I have received. If it is hateful, I completely get it from that. You know, समझ आ जाता है who's hateful and who's helpful. When somebody is hateful, you immediately know that your work hasn't touched them the way you expected them it to, or they are coming from a place of insecurity or jealousy. So ignore
yeah,
that kind of critical feedback. It's not going to help you. But you have to keep your eyes and ears open to the feedback that is helpful to you and will help you become a better writer.
exactly. I'm encountering criticism of my work for the first time with this book, because I've written another book, Dark, back in 2017, and not many people read that book. Only like my friends and family read that book, and nobody really criticized anything about the book. So I really didn't know, if there was anything wrong with my writing or with the story or anything, because I mean, there was the odd comment, but it was very mild. But for this book, I try to sort of engage many reviewers to sort of take a look at the book and review it. The comments that I've seen online, like initially at least, I was shocked that But then, if I look at my own record when I'm reviewing books, sometimes I can get pretty nasty myself. I can't really blame people if they do the same for me. So it was a new experience this time. Dealing with all this, and I sort of uh, had a few feelings in my heart, which today I've in this interview with you, I've been able to sort of get some of that stuff off my chest.
I'm glad that I could be the source and platform for you to get out
Thank
your viewpoint across. Nilshi is saying, I once said to someone that even fiction should sound real and relatable, and I had to hear a big lecture. So true. So, again, there are different schools of thought related to this. I am somebody who, when I'm reading nonfiction, also I like to have a feel of a story around it. So I like stories that are biographies or something that is where the nonfiction is telling a story about a person. Uh, I like those kind of stories. I don't like self help books at all. Like I completely believe that if you're going for a self help, it's better that you have it from your own experience. What they are trying to say is from their experience, and your experience cannot be the same as somebody else.
And you see some of the people who are writing these self-help books, they're like in their teens, like maybe early 20s. You haven't, what have you seen of life? Yeah, haven't had any life experiences, nothing, no insights developed over a long period of time for you to start advising other people about how they should live their lives and what they should do. You're not a celebrity, you're not anybody, and you're writing self-help books. I mean, today I wouldn't write a self-help book. I wouldn't write how to write a book. I wouldn't, because I don't think I'm qualified, But
Yeah.
these people in their early 20s are writing self-help books. I don't get it.
Even if they are, I think they should try to make it more personal. Make it like this is what I learned. It could be
Yes,
different for you.
yes,
This
yes,
is what
exactly.
happened with me, and this is how I learned from it, and I incorporated that into my professional life. Like, don't make it like this is the gospel truth.
Yeah, true.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the long form questions, and we come to my favorite part, which is the rapid fire round. So the thing is, I have, for the first time during this doing of the author collaborative, I have forgotten to take out the rapid fire questions that I had for you. I only remember a couple. So you will have to help me out. Do you have them written
Yes,
with you?
I
The
do.
questions
This
that I sent to you. Okay.
how much of a Philadelphia story is fact versus fiction?
Yes. So how much of your book is
So
fact versus fiction?
there's actually, when I started writing the book, I wanted to write a memoir of the time when my son was born, the events that happened around. So I started writing the book. This was back in 2020 during the lockdown. So I thought,
Okay.
this is the perfect time for me to write a book.
Hmm.
So I started writing at that time. But then I realized, even as I was writing, that I'm writing it as if it's a fictional story.
Hmm.
Like, a lot of fictional elements are coming into the story as I'm writing. So I guess my temperament is that of a fiction writer, So, and I started writing it, and after some time, I had all these feelings, the feelings of anxiety that I talked about birth of my son, which I wanted to write. I finished writing about all that within 1 or 2 chapters.
Wow.
So
Okay. Hmm.
now, what do I
Fill
write?
up the field. Yeah. Yeah.
What do I do?
What more? How do you explore more?
So I couldn't think of anything, so I gave it up in 2020. I had it in the back of my mind that I need to finish this book because I liked what I'd written. That what I'd written, I wanted to complete the book, but I didn't know how. So 2021 went by, 22 went by, and then 2023 at the start of the year, I said, I have to complete this like a New Year resolution. I have to finish this at all costs. And one of the decisions I took at that time was to make it into a fictional novel, and which was the best decision I took in retrospect, because it sort of it frees you from having to remember all the nitty gritty. All you can take the story in whichever direction you want, and that is my temperament too. To write stories. So that's what I did. So to answer the question, I'd say in the first 2 or 3 chapters, about 70 to 80% of it is fact.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
70 to 80%. But afterwards, 70 to 80% is fiction.
Nice. So you have
I,
balanced it out.
I don't have a child with a black woman out of it. That's the question. A lot of people.
Yeah, that scandal hasn't happened. Okay. You have answered the question that's on everyone's mind. Okay. So your first question to me now.
Okay, yeah, but so what was my first question? What got you started as a writer?
Oh my God, you have taken me back to like 20 years piche. Uh, it started as a teenager. I started reading from the age of 8. And I don't remember there was any time that I didn't dream of writing my own book. Since the time I picked up that first book and finished it, I was like, maybe someday I can also write a story like this. At that time, felt like a far-fetched dream, like, ho sakta hai, maybe in another lifetime. But then I started journaling. Like as a teenager, I used to write like those dear diary type of things, and I used to write poetry. It began with poetry as a teenager. I think I was 12 or 13 at that time when I wrote my first poem. So that's when it started. Fiction was a pivot, and my debut book was poetry, and I never intended to do a novel. Like, I never intended to go into fiction. I'll stick to poetry. But then, as I read other people's fiction, I was like, maybe I can do it, because people have become more accepting of contemporary fiction now. People are not just sticking to classics. So I took that risk, and now we are 9 books later.
9 books, quite a lot. When I wrote my first book, I said, okay, I don't think I can write another one. I was so exhausted mentally. I said, I don't think I'll write another one. But finally, I've managed to write my second
Oh,
book with this
wonderful.
one. Now,
Is it out yet?
no, my first book was in 2017. The second
Okay.
one is this one, Philadelphia Story.
Okay. So this is your
So
second one.
now
Right.
I don't know if I can write a third one. That's
Okay. Nilshri has commented. She's saying, we are living in times when everyone wants to do everything. Yeah, that is so true.
and you can. Nowadays so much is possible. This wasn't possible back in when I was in my 20s, in my teens 20s. It was like a huge thing. Oh, you're going to write a book. Nowadays everybody's doing it. So,
Yeah. Okay. So since I don't have my questions for you, you will have to
yeah.
read your own and answer.
What is your writing routine?
Hmm. No, it's your turn to answer. So
Oh,
what's my second question for you?
oh. Okay. uh, a bit from the book you wish to remove, uh, change, and why?
Yes.
This is something I don't think I'll ever get used to as a writer, because in my mind I'm always changing things in the book. My first book, Dark, which was released 2017, I'm still making changes to it in my mind. Like, I just if it should have been that way, why didn't I think of it at that time? So I'm still and I read that book some 70, 80 times before I finally gave the okay. And even this one, I think I've read it about 30, 40 times at least. But if I read it again, I'm sure I'll find some errors. In fact, there is one error, one glaring error on the very first page, which nobody has pointed out to me yet. Let's see if somebody, after this interview. But yeah, it's a never-ending process. I think this is life as a writer. You're never happy.
Yeah, that's true.
You're always
Yeah,
trying to change what you've done, and there's always something that you regret not doing
yeah.
before the book was
Or something that you wish you had done differently.
exactly.
Okay.
So my question to you: what is your writing routine?
Okay, so my writing routine is divided into three parts essentially. One is where I do my blog writing, in which I generally write about books that I read. So that consists of book reviews and poetry. And the second one is where I write for social media, where it's not writing, but it's more of content creation, where I make the creatives, come up with the captions, or turn my already written content on the blog into a reel or a post, which can go on social media. And the third one is where I do book writing. Currently, the book writing is not going on actively. I do have a few ideas in my head, but I have not started concretely working on them. So
So you don't have like one specific time of the day when you're writing. It could be any time of the day.
generally, the blog writing happens during the first half, and the book writing happens during the second half, or at night when I'm done with all the other tasks that I have on hand, and I can be stress free about the deadlines or anything. That's when I do the book writing.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So for
Okay.
personally, it's like a huge trial and error process to work out which part of the day is best suited for me to do my writing. And finally, I settled on the period between 1 and 3 in the
Okay.
afternoon. That was
Okay.
it's like quiet, even in India,
Hmm.
that time between 1 and 3 in the afternoon is very quiet. You hardly hear any noise, so you can peacefully work on writing. So that's why I was interested in asking this question.
So for me, that is always night because उससे ज़्यादा शांति तो कभी नहीं मिलेगी. Like after midnight.
Night, there's like other things going on. Social media is there. People are
Hmm.
contacting you, messaging you, and
Yeah, that is. But then what I do is I switch off social media at around 10, 11.
okay, very good.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I should do it next time. Okay. Uh, the one aspect about expat life that you haven't spoken about in the book.
Yes, I am really interested in knowing that because I could relate so much to
It's
that bit.
a difficult question, no? Because I have talked about so many different things in the book uh,
Hmm.
about expat life. Everything, from being a student and walking 34 blocks to the Indian
Yeah.
store, getting my shopping, and then walking back another 34 blocks because you don't want to spend $1.50 on the
Hmm.
subway token. At that time, when you first land in the US, it's like every dollar is your 70, 80 rupees, whatever,
Hmm.
so you're very, very careful. So that was one aspect. And apart from that, once you start working, there's that loneliness and feelings of depression. You're like all alone. All your friends have kind of scattered all over the place. You used to
Hmm.
meet them uh, in the university, but then after that, they moved. So now you don't have any friends left in the city. You're all
Hmm.
alone. So I've talked about some of that also. Then you develop certain attitudes. Your political views change.
Hmm.
Your your view of life changes.
Hmm.
After time there, I'm like wondering what is left. What is left to talk about?
You
Maybe
haven't talked about the food.
oh, food. Okay, food was never a problem for me because I am an omnivore.
Okay.
So there's no like restrictions. I'll eat anything. I've eaten frog's legs also in
Oh,
Philadelphia,
okay.
Australia. So I never had a problem with
I
food.
see. That is why you have not spoken about it. See,
So
I'm a vegetarian, so that aspect was like, why isn't he talking about the food?
exactly, I know some people who had problems. In particular, there were a couple of Jain friends of mine
Oh,
who had a huge problem.
that is even one more level above
Yeah,
vegetarians.
yeah. And actually, there was another vegetarian who started eating eggs just because he didn't feel like he had any other option. So yeah, I guess that is a difficult. One thing that was interesting. There is a restaurant in Philadelphia, Chinatown,
Hmm.
where they serve you all the stuff that you would find in a normal Chinese restaurant, like chicken Manchurian, this, that, everything, but all of it is vegetarian.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so so that also exists. So I've been there, and when you taste it, you don't feel like it's not chicken. You feel like it's the actual thing. So that is one of the options. Some of my vegetarian friends they used to go there
Okay.
every one.
Now it's once you have settled down, you realize that there are many options, but initially it's kind of overwhelming, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure for those vegetarian people, it would have been hell
Hmm.
in the because for me it was nothing. I just went to the McDonald's and had whatever they had on offer. I didn't have a problem, but for many others, it would have been a problem. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Your question for me.
All right. Uh, who are your favorite authors?
This is a very tricky question. I'm a 90s kid, so I am going to name the authors that I grew up reading, like Nicholas Sparks and Sidney Sheldon and J.K. Rowling.
Any?
Currently, though, uh, I wouldn't say I have any favorites, but I have switched to reading more indie and self-published authors, and I have realized that there are so many gems out there that I have not discovered yet. And growing up, we had this notion that only popular literature is good, which is changing for me now. So I'm glad that I have, become a person who's more open to reading people who are not very well known.
That's that actually ties in with another question I have. So we'll discuss it
Yeah.
when that time comes. Uh,
Oh, so my next question for you was,
sure. Let me see. Your most and least favorite character trait of Annie and Harish.
hmm.
Uh,
So for those of you who are listening, Annie and Harish are the male and female protagonists from Harish's book, and I asked him this question: what are the character traits of both of these people he didn't like?
uh, this is a tough one for me because the character of Harish is a lot like me.
Okay.
Uh, some ways he's different, but he's a lot like me. So to say, what I didn't like about that character is kind of like really putting me on the spot. Uh, so I guess the fact that he doesn't try to make it up to Rose after she has left.
Hmm.
That was a difficult part for me because
Hmm.
had I been in the same situation, I would have been jumping over hoops to try to mend fences with her. But he doesn't, and he
Hmm.
doesn't reason because he thinks it's all normal and this is how they are. This is so
Yeah.
he doesn't. But I would have not. So I didn't like that aspect about him. Also. With his wife, I guess this is something that is common to both. They don't try to sort of uh, sort out the situation
Hmm.
till it's
They don't
over.
talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and there is also that a certain amount of jealousy between them, spousal jealousy when it comes
Hmm.
to their son.
Child. Yeah.
She resents him for certain things. and he also doesn't like it that she's more focused on the baby than on him, and so there is that self-centeredness that is there in him, uh, which is different from me. I wouldn't be that way. He's more ready to act on his impulses than I would be.
Hmm.
The same
Okay.
situation. He's more bold.
Okay.
He sort of just does what he feels like. And he's a little more rude and more arrogant than I would be. So yeah, those are the
Okay.
things that I.
Nilshi is here saying we have plant-based. Thank God we have, because that's such a blessing for people like me. Plant-based meat.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure.
And she's also saying absolutely agree, Manali. I think she was talking about my openness to reading new authors now.
Okay, that's a good question. So should I ask you the question that I had?
Yes.
What is your opinion of the state of the writing industry in India today?
Oh my God. Pandora's box. So my opinion is that you shouldn't have that ambition of getting published only by the big five, because that's a real challenge and that might not happen. And also, if you are going for vanity publishing, which is a subdivision of self publishing, if you're paying somebody to get you published, you should be careful that you are at least getting the return on your investment. So I am not somebody who's a fan of vanity publishing. I have never been, a fan of it. I've never indulged in it, but it's a thriving industry now. A lot of people want to become published, by even ready to shell out huge amounts of money to become published, to just have that tag of author attached to their name. And that's not healthy for anyone.
See, I'll tell you my perspective. For me, I don't have any contacts in the publishing
Hmm.
industry. And what I was told was that if I want to get it published by one of the big firms, then I'll have to like go up north to Gurgaon and all those things and I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this vanity publishing, as you say, is like good for me. Ghar baithe baithe hi, I can get my book
Yeah, yeah.
published.
I'm not saying I'm completely against it, but at least you should keep in mind that you are getting back what you invested in.
What you invested, what you're getting back, is like you're becoming known in
Yeah.
the like. Okay, maybe only 200, 300 people read your book, but at least those 200, 300 people have read your book. They know you
Yeah.
as an author. Uh, to
So
the
it all boils down to how much you want to get published and what is your end goal in publishing. If you are
Yeah,
wanting to earn from the book that you have written, then you have to rely on traditional publishing, which is going to be difficult.
yeah,
And if your end goal is get you to get the book out and let people read your story, then you can go for anything. Like you can go for self-publishing, which doesn't cost money. You can also go for vanity publishing, in which you have to invest a certain amount, but just make sure you're getting what you're paying for.
right. For a person like me, I care more about how many people read my book. That uh, because books are like something that, to the extent that people have read them and appreciated the story, your life is changed. To that extent, you're slightly different person uh, after you read the book than before. So my interest is more in like having more and more people
Read
read
the
my book.
book. Yeah.
If they want to read it for free, I don't have a problem. Read it for free. If you meet me and you ask me for a copy, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
No problem. But
Yeah,
if you
exactly. You have that clarity, right? You are not looking for profits from that book.
exactly
You just want people to read it.
right,
And that kind of clarity is always helpful when you are, at the stage where you have completed your book.
right, yep. So
In fact, even before you start writing that particular book, you should have that clarity, I feel. What do you want to do with that book? What is your end goal? Do you want to earn profits, or do you want more people to read it?
right. I guess profit will come once you're a known you know, everybody knows you. Everybody knows you as a writer. Once you're famous, then the profits will eventually
Yeah.
come. You might be dead before it happens, but
That
it'll
is
happen.
true.
So for me,
Okay.
it's more important to get my work out there. Okay, so your question for me, uh, I wish.
I think that would be the last one,
Yeah,
right?
that's the last one, and then I have one last question for you. Okay, so I wish writing was more.
Yeah, fill in the blank.
I don't know about more, but I wish writing was less taxing. You know, less frustrating, because sometimes it is very frustrating. There are days when my mind just doesn't function. I'll be sitting in front of the comp and waiting for something to strike, but it doesn't happen, and I'll be sitting there for an hour, sometimes 2 hours, and I'm not getting any ideas, and that's when I get into that negative mind space. I start questioning myself, my talent. Why are you wasting on this? Who told you you're a good
Yeah.
writer? Who, this is all crap. Give it up. And so that is something, every writer has to kind of guard against, I feel, you know, because you can talk yourself into giving up writing.
Yeah.
On such days, you can talk yourself into giving up writing. So I would say, you should have something that inspires you, some person or song or quote or something, that you can go back to and read it again. And for me, it's praise of my writing. I'll read that praise of my writing for my previous book, and that kind of inspires me to carry on. So yeah, so I wish writing was less frustrating, but it is often thing. And yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that now why so many writers commit suicide.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, it is frustrating. And for me, it is the patience also. Like, if you are writing a long form fiction, I've only written two long form fictions. And for me, that has taken the most amount of patience, because you have to keep going back to the same story again and again, multiple times. And that requires a lot of motivation.
For me, it's not a problem, because I take about 3-4 chapters to just get warmed up to the story that I'm writing. You know, by the time I'm ready to write my story, 3-4 chapters have already gone. So that is not a problem. The problem arises, like how in the case of this book, I started writing it as a memoir, and then I didn't know what to do after that, how to take it forward, and got stuck for 2 years. And so
Okay.
that's where I.
Okay.
So coming to the last question, where have I written it down? Has the development of social media been good or bad for writers?
Oh, this is like a double-edged sword, like two sides of a coin, I feel. For indie authors like me, it has been more of a boon, because we got exposure which we would normally not have got through offline channels. So yeah, that's a boon. But then also it opened up a can of worms where you have to be open to all kinds of people. Some people who might not be like pure readers, the way you mentioned, they are in it for just to make their buck, or just to get their frustrations out. You can never really have a filter for that. So it's like a bit of both. But I think it's been more good than bad, especially for me. I always keep joking about this, that if not for social media, I don't think I would have been able to sell more than 50 copies of any of my books. क्योंकि तुम कितना ही बाहर जाओगे अब, your circle is limited, and not everyone in your circle is interested in reading your book, reading or buying your book. They might be interested in reading it, that's a different case, but they might not be interested in buying it. Those two are very different things.
For me, it's like, nowadays there are so many options for entertainment for everybody. They don't have time for books. So, social media is part of that. You're spending so much time on social media, and especially in the evenings, when ordinarily, like, back in the day, you would have been reading books
Yeah.
and doing all those things. And now,
So yeah, you are competing with all sources of entertainment now. That's true.
Yeah. And one of the other frustrating things, not to do with social media, but it's like people don't want to spend money on buying a book. Even if it's like 50 rupees, people won't buy it. They'll borrow the book from their neighbor, and then that one hard copy will go all over the society and come back. But none of those people will buy
Exactly.
This is another
What I was saying. They might be interested in reading it, but they are not willing to buy it.
buy it.
Yeah.
So some of the frustrations that we deal with as writers, I guess.
And we are not only competing with all forms of entertainment, we are also competing with all forms of commodities. Because I have literally had someone compare my book with a bottle of beer. They were like, मैं तेरी book क्यों लूँ? इससे सस्ते में तो मुझे beer bottle मिल जाएगी. I'm like, what? How is that even a comparison? So yeah, that's also happening.
Considering how much I like my beer, I think he actually paid you a compliment, because he compared your book with beer, right? So, so if for a guy, if you're like, for a guy who likes beer, if you're comparing the book with beer, and your book is just coming up a little bit short, I think that's actually a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, backhanded compliment. True. Yeah, Nilshree is also saying people asking for free copies. That never goes. Yeah, people sliding into your DMs and asking you for free copies. I'm like, if you have heard about the book and you can see it on Amazon, just buy it. No.
You won't believe this. I know somebody who is like the COO of a company who asked for a free PDF copy of my book some time ago. And I'm like, what's
Okay,
up?
that's wrong on so many levels. Okay, first level is that obviously you have the earning capacity of someone who can shell out money for a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the second thing is that if you are at that level, you should have some sort of respect for the person who has written the book.
Exactly. Think about the person who has written the book, who has, worked so hard on.
Exactly. Yeah.
It.
It has gone so much effort has gone into it, definitely. And you have the earning capacity to shell like 100-200 रुपए तो तुम निकाल ही सकते हो. It's not like
like probably buy like 1,000 copies and distribute it among all the employees in your company.
Do that, yeah.
You have the ability to do that. You won't miss that money at all. But this is how people are. What to say?
Yeah. If you are competing with beers, what can we say? So yeah, I think that's about it. We are done with the questions we had for each other. And I think we have covered all the audience responses also as and when they came up. So that's the end of the episode. Thank you once again, Harish, for joining me. This has been a lot of fun. PDF. He's reacting to PDF. Yeah.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I had a great time. Great to meet you and talk with you about your book as well. And best of luck with it.
Thank you so much. And I am happy that you enjoyed the book. And both of our books, for those of you who are listening, both of our books are available on Amazon, and they are also available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have the subscription and you are a KU member, yeah. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. Like, this is like a wow thing for people who are, thoda miser. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Do check out our books on Amazon, and if you happen to read them, leave a rating and a review. We would love to hear what your thoughts on it. Thank you so much, Harish. Let's hope we can do it sometime, and you come up with one more book where we can talk about it again.
Next year.
Yes. Thank you. I look forward to doing this with you again. And Nilshi is wishing both of us success. Thank you so much, Nilshi. Bye.